So the other day, I recently came across some information that is very pertinent to the upcoming dimensional merge, and it's not really that this information hasn't been widely spread before, but it's more so that this is more pertinent that it's all finally coming together. And I some people may have been privy to this, but I recently became aware of this about 5 months ago when I was at the grocery store shopping because I had a lot of vanilla, and the problem when you have a lot of vanilla beans is that you don't have a few vanilla beans, and you gotta use them or lose them, and you can't really buy just a few vanilla beans because vanilla beans are so expensive that the price is a lot better because of economy of scale when you buy a lot of vanilla beans. So I had to use a lot of vanilla beans. So I was at the store looking for some heavy whipping cream because I wanted to make some whipped cream because whipped cream is very versatile. You can make vanilla whipped cream. You can make some lemon whipped cream, put some lemons in there. You can even get some orange, put citrus or maybe kumquat whipped cream. Go to the Asian grocery store, get some kumquats, put it in there, maybe some kumquat extract, soak it in some alcohol. But anyway, I was shopping for some whipping cream, and this guy comes up to me. He was following me for a long time. He had like this big kind of schnoz, and I was looking at him for a little bit, and he comes up to me and says, I don't want to seem kind of weird, but I couldn't help but notice that you kind of had this scent that I've noticed before. And it's very peculiar. I'm just looking at him, and he keeps talking to me, and he's like, it reminds me a lot of rose chew, and I'm like, rose chew. And he thinks that I don't understand because I repeat myself, and I guess to humans, when you repeat yourself like that, means that you don't really understand. So I'm like roast you, and he's like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to bother you. And I said, oh, no, I understand what you're saying, roast you, right? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, personally, I'm not a roast Jew because obviously I'm a male, and I'm straight, and I'm true and honest. I'm not a rose true, but my girlfriend, she's soul bonded to a rose true, and he looks at me and he says soul bonded, and I'm like, yeah, soul bonded, and at first I thought, oh, he doesn't understand soul bonded because he just did the same thing I kind of did when I said rose true, like with a question mark, but he's like, oh no, I understand soul bond. I play Final Fantasy. I play Chrono Trigger, and I'm like, oh, Chrono Trigger. I heard of that, but I never played it because I'm not as weird as you are. But anyway, he goes on to talk about Chrono Trigger for a bit, and I didn't pay any attention because I wasn't into that at the time. But now Chrono Trigger is pretty important if you want to medicate, or I'm sorry, meditate if you want to meditate your way to different universes. It's you don't need Chrono Trigger, but you can use Chrono Trigger. And anyway, I was talking about my girlfriend who's soul bonded to the Rosa, and the important thing to understand is that if you're soul bonded, then let's go back to the beginning, right? So he was talking to me about how how he could pick up the rose true scent, and we eventually got into a discussion about time because time, it's if you've been paying any attention, you would know by now that time isn't linear, it's actually cubic, because if you look at time, there's multiple times going on at once. There's different universes that coexist, and like cubic, when you cube something, it's to the third power, but when you square something, it's to the second. So 2 times 3 is 6, and there's 6 sides to a cube, but there's 8 corners to a cube, but if you divide that by the square, then you only get 4. So there's actually 4 parts to time, and there's 4 parts to our universe that are actually very different than any other universe, and that's what makes our universe distinct and different from the other universes. Distinct and different is the important part, because a lot of universes are actually very similar, and they need to be very similar, because when you look at the things that hold the universe together, you have things like physics, you have things like gravity. A universe couldn't function if it didn't have gravity. It couldn't function if it didn't have physics holding everything together. You see, that's very important. It has to have physics and gravity. It has to have all these same things, and when you look at these things, there's also similarities between humans. Just look at all the different types of aliens that you have. There's different aliens out there, and the thing is, they're all very humanoid. They're all very human-like aliens. They kind of have the same type of heads. They have the same type of bodies. They're bipedal. They have arms, legs. They're the same type of alien species. Maybe you might have some things like they may be like octopus style, or they may be more whalish. They may have like whale type screeches. But at the end of the day, intelligence can only work so many ways. So if something is highly intelligent on Earth, what's to say that something on other universes wouldn't be the same type of species? So when you look at time, there's on Earth there's four different things that make Earth time distinct from any other universe time. And when you look at the northeast corner, you have a certain type of intelligence, and this is robotic intelligence. This is something only distinct to our universe, and that type of robotic intelligence you find in robotic intelligence, mostly like Transformers. Because when I was talking to this guy at the store, I don't want to say his name. Let's call him Toblerone. I was talking to Toblerone, and Toblerone's like, hey, I'm actually soul bonded to Optimus Prime. I'm like, Optimus Prime, I didn't know you could soul bind into a Transformer. But once we started talking about time, now it makes sense. So northeast corner of the time cube, you have Transformers, you have things like Optimus Prime, you have things like even Decepticons even, and those are the robotic types of knowledge. They're non-sexual, they're robotic, they're machinery, and on the same point, you have more like computer forms of intelligence that are unique to Earth. This is also the eastern corner of the time cube, but it's southeastern opposed to northeastern. So southeastern, you have the computer-based knowledge, which is it's also faith-based knowledge, because computer-based knowledge and faith-based knowledge, you just have to accept that computers work, right? Ones and zeros, how do they work? Magnets, how do they work? You just have to accept it at the end of the day. So you take all this type of knowledge with computers and all this type of faith knowledge, and you end up with the rebuilt temple. You end up with Temple OS, and Temple OS is unique because it was created by a man who understood all this stuff far before we did. We're just learning about it now, and it's very important to learn about it now for the dimensional merge, because the dimensional merge, no one's going to be safe in the dimensional merge. You can try to protect yourself, but who knows, because it hasn't happened yet. I actually have to watch myself when I'm talking about these things, because some guy came up to me. He's like, "Hey, you want to make some sort of shotguns for me?" And I said, "Sort of shotguns? I guess I could, but I don't think those are legal." He's like, "Well, I've got something in for you. You want some meth?" I'm like, "Meth? I don't do meth." Anyway, so I was talking about not the shotguns, but we know the eastern corner of the time cube. Now we have to look at the not the east, not the never eat soft worms. Never eat soft worms. You gotta only eat the hard worms. So we look at the west. On the western side of the time cube, you have two things. You have powerful intelligence, and you have monster powerful intelligence, and then you also have emotional intelligence is unique to our modern world right now. So if you look at the monster intelligence, you have something that was very popular back in the 90s, but it's still popular to this day, and it hasn't gone away because it's so important to our universe. And that's really the theory of like monster intelligence, which is something like Pokemon. You got Pokemon intelligence, and when you look at Pokemon, like who are some of the first Pokemon, like Mew, those are very human like species, kind of like aliens, very very intelligent. They have all these powers that very powerful creatures, and so Pokemon, you get the southwestern corner of the time cube, but the northwestern corner of the time cube, it's also this kind of monster Earth kind of thing, but it's more emotional intelligence. So when you look at emotional intelligence, you have all these same type of animations, but this time they're ponies. So look at Equestria, look at My Little Pony, mostly G4, but you can go before G4, just not G5, because G5 is because like you don't want to go to G5. But if you look at the Friendship is Magic, you look at any Hasbro toys, those ponies, those ponies have some severely powerful emotional intelligence. So that's what we want to look at. But when you combine all these four things, 3 plus 1, cube 3 plus the one cube, so that's the time cube. So if you combine all these things, you get what is unique to Earth, and you can use these things, you can kind of alter them to go to different universes. So if you want to go to C139 to C137, C237, C239, those are the ones I've been to, because you can only modify so many parts at once. But if you want to go there, all you have to do is, I shouldn't say all you do, but you have to expose yourself to all these things at once. So I was talking to Toblerone, and Toblerone showed me how to use Chrono Trigger. If you play Chrono Trigger and then you play Pokemon Yellow, you have to play Pokemon Yellow on the SP, because you need to white out your eyes. You got to get your eyes really bright, and the SP is the only one that has that super bright screen. So you got to like shine through your eyes. You have to really be meditating. You have to keep your mind clear. So if you play Pokemon Yellow while right after you play Chrono Trigger, while you have you need to have My Little Pony playing in the background, the theme song, or you can have any episode on, but you have to be familiar with the dialogue, because you have to associate it with My Little Pony. I haven't tried anything other than Friendship is Magic, but as long as you have My Little Pony and Chrono Trigger and Pokemon, you'll be able to soul bind yourself to an entity in a different area, a different universe, as long as as long as you keep your mind clean. So you can just actually soul bind yourself to different place. I was actually over in C139, and C139 is interesting because if you use Pokemon Yellow, you can pretty much always go to Vermilion City. But if you use any other type of Pokemon game, you can actually still go over there. But where you're gonna where you're gonna transubstantiate or form yourself is gonna be different. One time I was in Cerulean City. One time I was in Pallet Town. You know, and it kind of sucks because if you don't know where you're going, there's a lot of tall grass you gotta go through. But